Hey friends, we're taking a look at the entire range of Garmin Approach golf smartwatches on today's episode. That's a mouthful. We're gonna look at the S12, we're gonna look at the S42 and the S62, and hopefully help you make the best choice for a golf smartwatch on your wrist this season. Let's do it. Now, I get all my Garmin golf gear as well as all the rest of the technology that I use on this show at playbetter.com, and you should too. And here's why. They've got a fantastic customer service team that's based right here in the United States. Free 2-day shipping to the continental US. And as always, the best pricing can be found at playbetter.com. All right, I'll leave some links down below. When you use our links, you're supporting this show. So you're already getting the best deal on the internet, and you're helping us. It's a win-win-win. All right, now let's start off with the form factor of each of these watches. I've actually got each one of them right here for you. Which one of these would you pick? Now, you'll be able to get any of these watches in either black or white. I just happen to have black for the S42, and the S12 and the S62 here are going to be in the white version, but apart from color, they're functionally and stylistically really just completely the same. The S12 and the S42 are going to be a little bit on the smaller side. The S62 is quite a big watch comparatively. Now, weight-wise, they're all about the same. The S62 probably being the heaviest of the bunch, but none of them are heavy. And I will also say that none of them get in your way when you're swinging the club. I know I've gotten a lot of questions on these videos about how it is on the wrist. The buttons have never interfered with my swing. I've never accidentally pressed the buttons, and the watch has never gotten in my way as I'm swinging the golf club, okay? So some other stylistic differences here. The rubber here on these two bands is basically the same. However, the clasp is a little bit different. A metal clasp on both the S42 and S62. S12 is going to have a plastic clasp, all right? Is that a big deal? It just depends. Maybe these two will actually hold up a little bit more over time, although I think, you know, this is nice, hard, durable plastic. I think you'll be completely fine. The other thing is the bezel. The bezel on the S12 is going to be a black matte finish plastic bezel, whereas the S42 and the S62 are both going to give you a ceramic bezel, okay? Ceramic is scratch proof. It'll pretty much in 3, 4, 5 years from now look exactly the same as it does on day one. All right, so that's the difference. A little bit of an upgrade there. You get the ceramic bezels on both of these models. Now, in terms of button layout, these watches are all completely different. You're gonna have a 4-button layout here on the S12. You've got up, down, back, and OK, or sort of an action button. The action button always being the red button on these watches. That's the S12. On the S42, I really like the form factor of this one. Probably of all the watches, this one would get the most wrist time if I was not playing golf, okay? Because the form factor is wonderful. It's got just a single button there, just an action button. Everything else is touch screen, okay? And you're going to get a nice shape here and a nice profile, okay? The profile on the S12, basically the same as the S42, but the S62 is going to be quite a bit thicker. I don't know if you can see that, but that's quite a bit thicker in terms of a side profile of a watch. The S42 to me is just the perfect size, okay? It just gives you this nice analog display. There's also an analog display by default on the S62, whereas the S12 is going to give you a digital readout. You're gonna see the numbers rather than that analog looking hands. But again, of the two analog looking displays, I just love the way, the fonts, I just love everything about the S42. So again, from a form factor, this is going to be my personal favorite. It just feels good on the wrist. I think it's the right size. I love the analog display. I also love around, if you look around these like chapter rings here, you're going to get the different 1 through 18 holes that you'll be playing, and this will actually be marked throughout the round. It has that there. Same thing on the S62, you're going to get that extra added feature of 1 through 18, so you can see very quickly what hole you're on the golf course, okay? Now, if we turn all of these watches around, you're gonna see some other differences here. So on the S12, you're gonna see it's just metal. There's nothing there, there's no sensor, okay? On the S42, no sensor, although it's a black matte metal because this is the black version. On the S62, however, we're gonna have that sensor right there. And what that's going to do is actually track our heart rate. So that's the first feature of the S62 I think a lot of people will appreciate. The S42 and the S62 both track your step count. I don't believe the S12 does that, but you will have the added heart rate monitoring function of the S62 there. Okay, so that's the difference. Apart from that, they all have the exact same proprietary charging port. And I actually really like this cable. It snaps in nice and tight and firm, and you know you've got a great connection. You can hear an audible little click. They all have the exact same connection on them. Interestingly enough though, the Z82, which is the rangefinder from Garmin, as well as the G80, which is the handheld launch monitor that you'll see me use on this show a lot, both of those take a USB connection. So the watches have their own connection, and I think that's for waterproofness. I don't know if that's a word, but all these watches are at least water resistant. I don't think I'd go diving in these watches. In fact, I know I won't go diving. I'm not sure I'd go swimming in these watches, but I think you could if you wanted to. In terms of the band, you've got a little quick release because you can actually change the band on the S12 and the S42 really simple. So you could actually find an aftermarket band for these if you wanted to sort of personalize your watch. This one has a little bit of a different system, but same thing. I believe you can pull that off and you can actually change bands. So if this rubber ever wears out, which I doubt it ever will, in the next 5 years, because it's very high quality, very durable, it's nice. Sometimes you get a cheap watch and these cheap watches are stiff. This is nice and sort of durable. You can move it. It feels so comfortable on the wrist. All of them have that same rubber to them. So I don't see these ones wearing out anytime soon, but if they did, you could change the band, or if you just wanted to personalize your watch, you can change the band on all of these watches. Although the S62 uses a little bit of a different system than these other two. I'm not sure if it's better or worse, but it is what it is. The other thing I'll just say is the S62, to go along with its bigger form factor, also has a bigger, thicker band. All right, now we're gonna get into the feature set of each of these watches and what makes them different. They all have different features that go along with them, and I think this is probably why you really came to watch this video. So first things first, the most drastic is the fact that you're gonna have a black and white screen with the S12, okay? So the other thing I will say is the screen is not all the way to the edges like these other two watches that are touchscreen. Both of these are gonna be touchscreen color watches, all right? You'll be able to literally just like tap your finger on them and do things like you would an Apple Watch. I'd say in terms of screen quality and brightness, the S42 and the S12 very comparable. Obviously you have a bigger screen just because this is overall a bigger watch with the S62. All right, so again, if we come back to the S12 here in terms of features, all of these watches are going to give you GPS. They're all going to give you distances to the main features of the whole. However, both the S42 and the S12 are not going to look quite as sexy as the S62 in that regard. You're going to get this graph looking image that I'll show you here, whereas on the S62 it really is an overview of the whole and all of its different features, and you can kind of zoom in and zoom out on those features of the whole. So the graphs look very similar on the S12 and S42, although one's going to be in black and white and one is going to be in color. Apart from that, the scoring system is all the same. The way you keep track of your strokes on each hole, on your drives and fairways in regulation, greens in regulation, putting, all those statistics, all identical across all three of these watches. All of these will come loaded with the 42,000 plus courses that Garmin has available. I've yet to come to a course that wasn't loaded in these watches, even some really podunk courses in the middle of nowhere. They were still on the watch. If we get into the S42 now, you're gonna get a couple extra added features. First of all, you're gonna get a step counter. Okay, so these are things that you can just literally swipe up and take a look at. You're gonna get sunrise, sunset, which you also will get on the S12, but it looks a little bit nicer here on the S42. You're gonna get your step counter. Another thing that you're gonna get with the S42 that you will not get with the S12 is a plays-like distance. So this is going to adjust for slope. Okay, so if you're playing a hole downhill or uphill, this will tell you what the distance should play like, okay? That's the S42. Now, Let's get into this bad boy here, which is the S62. The S62 is going to add, as we mentioned before, the heart rate monitor. It's going to give you text notifications as well as phone notifications right here on the device. You will not be able to reply to them like you would an Apple Watch or something like that. You're not going to be able typing into this watch, but it will notify you of any texts or emails that come in if you set it up that way. I don't. I turn all of that off on course because I want to be playing golf. But hey, if your wife is in labor and you need to know if she's going to deliver and you're out on the golf course, which you shouldn't be, you could turn on notifications on this watch, okay? A few more advanced features that you're going to get when you step up to the S62. The biggest one, by far the biggest one, is the virtual caddy. So after you play 5 rounds with the S62, it's literally going to have a caddy built into it that will suggest clubs for you. That's so cool. It's also going to track all of your shots. These two watches will do that with the optional CT10 little pins that you screw into the butt ends of your clubs. This will track some stats. This S62 actually has stat tracking built into it. So every time you take a swing, you'll get a notification and it will ask you what club you hit. Again, if you have the CT10s installed, it should know what club you hit, but you do not need the CT10 optional upgrade when you have the S62. So if you want to track stats, this is going to be by far your best option, and it's going to basically be a $200 upgrade to get that, but I think it's worth it. There's no subscription involved or anything like that. You're going to be able to track every club you hit in your bag, and that virtual caddy is so cool because the virtual caddy will tell you not only what club you should hit, but it will also show you different options on how to play a hole. This is something that I found out months and months later after I'd been using it. Let's say I step up to a par 5, it will literally give me different options and scenarios and calculate my best chances of making par or better on that hole. It's next level. All right, so it'll say, hey, you should hit a driver, 3-iron, sand wedge, and you'll get this score. Or you could hit a 3-wood off the tee, another 3-wood, and maybe a 9-iron, and this is what you should be scoring. So it's going to take into account all the shot data that you've loaded into this watch over your entire round history, and it's going to make really smart suggestions for you. So for that feature alone, I personally would spend the extra money, but budget is definitely a concern for many out there. And if you don't need the virtual caddy feature, you might be just as well off with the S42. But again, you're going to be able to track all your stats. It's going to take wind into account. It's going to take slope into account. And it's going to give you a really smart suggestion on what club to hit. I love that feature. You're going to get weather on this watch. You're going to get calendar, heart rate, steps. It's going to track your handicap. And it's going to provide all the round data. Now, you can load your round data into the Garmin app with all 3 of these watches, but again, the S62 is going to give you shot-by-shot data. So if you're really a geek for stats, the S62 is the way to go. All of these watches come with a 1-year warranty from Garmin. I've had the S62 for well over a year. The other 2 watches I've had for many months now. All of them have been performing perfectly for me. No issues at all. I will say the GPS functions on both the S12 and S42 are a little bit faster, okay? And that's maybe just because this is 1 year newer technology than the S62. The S62 is like a 1-year-old watch right now. Now the S12 and S42 also hit the satellite quicker, so when I get out to the golf course, these things work really, really fast. The S62 works pretty fast, faster than all the competitors in this category, but it's slower than the other 2, okay? So there's another little +1 for the S42 and S12 versions if you're looking to save those few dollars. All right, now some other features that are built in the S62 which might make it the right choice for you. You've got a swing tempo trainer built into this watch. You can actually take it out to the driving range and work on your tempo, your takeaway and your follow through, and make sure it's nice and smooth. That feature alone could be worth you pulling the trigger on the S62. Now, if you're into fitness, you'll be able to track all your runs and your walks. All that data will be saved into the S62 for you. You've got a stopwatch and a timer function built into both of these 2 watches, the 42 and the 62, and that is missing in the S12. You've got an alarm clock. You can actually have a find your phone feature built into this. So a lot more features built into this watch, which again might make this the right choice for a lot of people out there. I would say if you're happy with just the basics and really you're using this watch just for golf, the S12 is a fine watch. If you want to step it up with that color touchscreen, you want a nice form factor, the ceramic bezel, and some other features like an alarm clock, weather, and those sorts of things, I would go for the S42. And if you're looking for everything, if you want the virtual caddy, swing tempo, the notifications, all of the heart rate, and fitness tracking, the S62 is absolutely the way to go. Once again, I highly recommend you check out playbetter.com to buy these watches. These guys always have the best prices on the internet. I will leave some links below for you to purchase these on PlayBetter. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or something I did not cover in the video, please do leave a comment below. I will try to answer as many of them as I possibly can. I hope you'll subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you back here very soon on another edition of Let's Play Through.